GamersNexus is a fledgling manufacturer of several interesting products. They have sent me their newest Modmat Mini today, so we're going to be taking it through its paces, extensive testing, so we can give you a full review and let you know whether or not this new product is worth your money. Nori! Always jumping up on the table. So you guys might be able to tell, but we've got the original GamersNexus Modmat here on the table. Don't worry, we will be doing a comparison to the original, as well as a huge array of comparative tests. Inside, though, got some packaging, accessories. Oh, look! Steve's trying to butter me up with one of the GamersNexus pint glasses here, which I'll have to do a separate video on comparing the performance of this to my pint glasses, which do hold more liquid than the GamersNexus version. They've got some gilding going on the outside there, but of course, we are not going to be fooled or tricked by flashy packaging here. We're all about performance. Inside the package, we have a thermally printed label, has the GamersNexus logo on it, as well as my name and address. GamersNexus logo looks a little pixelated, I'm going to say. Not quite as sharp of printing as we might come to expect there. So obviously that's disappointing right from the get-go. For the Modmat itself, we have some elastic straps. Boom. This is our first test. First test, of course, is going to be a flatness reflexivity index. So as we can see, laid flat on the table, we have some curling at the corners, not quite laying flat. So as was also included in the original Modmat, we have an anti-static wristband here, which is a nice add-on. Gotta give them credit for that. It has this piece which you will connect to something that is grounded via this little contact point right there. Then you take the wrist strap itself. You can use this alligator clip to clip it to something, or you can just plug in right there once you have this fixed grounding piece, which you can then attach to your desk somewhere. Then of course the thermally conductive part goes like that. Should make contact with your skin to make sure that you are electrically discharged before you work on any sensitive electronic components. I'd love to see some more interoperability here. Alligator clip, you know, it could connect right there. That'd be useful in my mind. So natural rubber, also known as India rubber, we're all probably pretty familiar with, but it is formed from polymers of the organic compound isoprene. Normally it is produced in Thailand as well as India. All that information can obviously be referenced in the footnotes for today's video, but I want to get back to reflectivity, or when it comes to the refractive index of a property, when you're talking about a wavefront interfacing with the media so that it is refracted at an equal and opposite angle. We're talking about multiple factors here. We have thermal radiation, and that comes in the form of light emissivity, and we also have infrared light. So there's stuff you can see and stuff you can't see. It wasn't as noticeable to me upon first inspection of the product, but I feel like we're dealing with a fair amount of integrated tessellation here with this, accounting for the rocky terrain. Naturally, you would want to go with Benetti's defense in that case, but you would expect the enemy to attack with Kappa Ferro. But as expected in that case, the values tend to be well over 9,000. But when it comes to the fundamentals here, I think it gets back to what the definition of Nexus is: a series of things, multiple things that are connected together, and obviously there's nothing connected to this. Of course, at that point I had to interject and put my foot down, because if I paid for the meal, then obviously I'm going to take the doggy bag home. Now, we've covered a lot of information in this introductory section, which will all be digitized, placed in a compendium, and then buried in a time capsule for the next 200 years, when it will be resurrected when humanity has evolved to the next plane of existence. But for now, I think we can move on to the testing section, and I have a bunch of numbers to share with you here. Our first test is flatness and uniformity. This is a mod mat, and of course a mat should be something that is flat. If you have a mat on your front door, for example, and it curls up at the corners, well, it's going to be easy to trip over. In a similar situation, if you're building a computer and your mat is not flat, well, we can't have any of that. Cat in the hat. At the same time, when it comes to uniformity of the surface area, we have some grooves and ridges here. It provides a bit of texture, and actually that is a good thing for a mat, because as you have products on it, you don't want them to be slipping and sliding around. However, the grain here is obviously slightly askance, a bit askew, you might say. That might lead to a visual conflict, which could then confuse the user, which then of course would lead to damaging your components. Our next test is still in development. We probably need 1,000 or 2,000 more passes at it before we can call it completely scientific, but it involves dropping a handful of screws and other components onto the mat mat in order to determine how quickly they can be picked up, because reflectivity of the surface area is something that can lead to eye strain, and of course locating your parts on the mat surface itself is going to be very important when it comes to efficiency. The downside here is that over here on the area where you're supposed to be setting your screws and everything, we actually have a higher reflectivity index, and although this does make it easy to locate the screws there, we could be looking at long-term eye strain. So something that perhaps some blue blocking lenses might account for, or of course just don't stare directly at the Modmat itself. No, I just did. Next, we're analyzing the Modmat Mini on the accuracy of the printed information that's on the mat itself. And here we have some useful information. We have a layout of a graphics card. We have the die shots of both Turing and Pascal, so 10 series as well as 20 series NVIDIA GPUs. And we have a Vega 56 and 64 here. Now, I would argue that the Vega 56 and 64 is practically useless because who uses Vegas anymore? And then I have a slight issue with some of the representative sizing of some of the components on here. We have PCI Express 8-pin and 6-pin where we can see the sense connectors as well as ground and 12 volt. These are just huge. They're obviously much larger than they are in real life, so that could potentially lead to confusion. Next, we have the all-important odor test. Smells good. Now, this last set of test numbers is the durability test, and here we have a couple tests. These are very scientific, and it involves a lot of man-hours of work, so I hope you guys appreciate the level of effort that went into this testing. That was supplemented with the stare test. And the results of these tests were unfortunately inconclusive, but that does mean, as you guys are probably hoping, I will be having a follow-up. This has just been the introductory preliminary testing of the GamersNexus Modmat Mini. I will be following up with a very probably like an hour-long video where I go over some additional details on this Modmat to let you guys know whether or not you should purchase it. My initial impressions are I'm not impressed. Obviously, it's a mat, but it's not flat. It's got stuff on it. It is mini, but what does mini really mean? Is that a quantifiable thing, or is it just something that's in the abstract that GamersNexus is trying to use to sell us more products? And finally, GamersNexus. There were no gamers included with this product, and as far as a Nexus, I don't know what that actually means. But guys, that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll post a link to this product down in the video's description, despite it, of course, being horribly bad and disappointing. Thank you so much again for watching. Hit the thumbs up button on your way out. We'll see you next time.